Happy New Year. This feels the equivalent of texting or phoning your mate from high school on a whim and saying like, do you want a coffee? And then you sit down and there's like this weird blend of familiarity but also this really obvious presence that so much has changed. And it's kind of sad but also kind of nice at the same time because you're both wiser, but then you're both aware that no contact. And in all fairness, the video that I posted last year when I had red hair, was it last year or the year before? I don't even freaking know. When I had red hair, I was talking to you about my spiritual awakening and like what that felt like and how crazy it was. To me, that felt like it was a comeback video, and I was like, this is gonna be my time where I'm back and I'm aware and intentional and I'm ready for it. But you probably noticed that shortly after that video, there was sparse content again. Like, I feel like, if you're not aware, I haven't really posted on this channel at all properly for like 2 years. There's been the odd bit of content that I'll be proud of and I'll just put out because I'm like, yeah, F it, like the old days. I'm proud of this one, here you go. And then like, I'll just go back into my cave, into the abyss. And I'm not gonna get into it too much in this video because it's a lot. But when you have some form of like spiritual awakening, or you just start understanding the world more beyond what we've always known, what we've always been told, taught, forced down our throat, or just what we see, like what's visible around us, when you start getting into that, and I explained it in the video I'm talking about, but it's quite intense. Like, especially on the internet, because Christ, if anything, social media is one of the only places that illuminates those things. It puts ego on a pedestal, and it's really interesting to watch that. And like, as someone who, obviously this is partly my job and career, I had to like figure out how the hell am I going to make these two things work together, because this is my life, but then at the same time I also realized how much of that I didn't want to associate with anymore, but I'm aware of how my life looks like now without it. That's the interesting thing. I've had 2 years of trying to figure out what it was I really wanted to do, why I wanted to do it. That's the important thing, because I found a lot of the way I was like navigating social media and a lot of the reasoning behind why I even created content in the first place was actually through a lot of processing trauma mechanisms. Like, I never associated myself as someone who had trauma or like went through something really crazy. I was never depressed or like I had anxiety, but I just thought like every kid had anxiety until I became an adult, and I'm like, holy crap, it's still there, what's going on? And then I realized like, oh, my relationship with social media is weird. I mean, not weird, it's actually the same as everyone else, but I'm becoming aware of it, and I want to do something about that. So it took kind of 2 years to figure that out, and not all of it is nice and fun and fluffy, but the fact it took 2 years is important because I think it was a gamble. Like, it's a risk. I've probably sacrificed years and years and years of like hard work as a teenager when everyone's out doing stuff, as a young adult when everyone's out partying. I was here prioritizing my work and my content and what I wanted to create and building up a little platform and a little world for myself, and it paid off like early years into my adulthood. But I think within that process I kind of like lost who the hell I was, and it started to show in, yes, numbers, but like things like stats is kind of like the cold, harsh, like masculine representation of your magnetism, you know, who and how you attract. And I think I was sort of losing so much of my like flow, my genuine, authentic enjoyment in this world that it was showing, and it was less magnetizing, and not only for people watching but also for myself, because it became a chore. It became like something I was doing because I had to pay the bills, which is fair, but like I was prioritizing paid for content, I was prioritizing looking for like clients all the time, and I never really was listening to like, okay, well, what is it I actually want to create then? What creative juices are in me today? No, it doesn't matter, because you've actually got to think about the algorithm and the way you're speaking and how that can be cut and edited and documented and displayed for the world to see. And I was sick of it. I was done. There is clearly some kind of battle within me where it's like a knowing of, yes, statistically, logically, it makes sense to like make the system work for you. But then there was another side of me that was like, this isn't why I did it in the first place. This entire thing I'm doing was not born from the notion of and logic. I just went with it because it felt like it was like in me. It was bursting out. I needed to express and create, and I enjoyed it. And internal battles and just anything psychological is a deep freaking programming, and it takes a lot to like start changing the coding inside yourself, like the way you've been made up over the years. The idea of that was dead interesting to me. I'm like, Jesus Christ, psychology is it's a life hack. It's a cheat code. I felt like I'd been given a cheat book to life, and it was there the whole time. Like, we know of psychology, I've known of psychology my whole life, and all of a sudden I'm like, holy crap, I'm functioning in this really predictable way according to psychology. I'm actually quite a predictable little human being. But then there's also that relationship that I've built with spirituality, reclaiming my wise self, alchemizing the parts of me that I didn't like, that I had kind of grown and developed because of society or because of my upbringing or because of social media as a whole. Like, growing up on it can also contribute to that programming, and the idea of alchemizing that really helped me connect to my more witchy side, and the two together have just been like so beautiful as like a representation of my masculine and feminine, to be honest with you, because I felt that like the masculine was taking over too much in my life. It was making me feel embarrassed and shameful for the more feminine me, the woman in me that's like created amazing things in my life in the first place. So why am I shutting her down from a masculine point of view when operating from the masculine side of myself, such as like stats and working with the algorithm, trying to do what's like logical and best, that actually like killed my channel, it killed my content, it killed the numbers. So why am I shaming her for that side when they need to both be in harmony? There's so much importance of both of them. So ultimately, like, what I'm saying here is I had to really look, and I didn't realize this at the time, but it was going to take a long time to look and analyze all these parts of myself that was coming from some sort of wound, some sort of trauma, or even just like fear. Like, if you can't resonate with those kind of words, basically I'm saying when I was operating from a place of like worry, concern, neediness, like clinging on to something. As they say, the root of suffering is attachment. Wherever I had attachments, I actually looked at them in the face. Like, why are you there? Where have you come from? Whose are you? They could have been my parents or like ex-friends, situations that happened in the past. And I actually like gave them the time of day, and I said, are you okay, hun? No, I actually like met it with that softer, gentle, feminine side of myself, and I said, like, what do you need? As they say, it's like feeding the demons. Like, what can I give you? What food can I provide you that you've been like starving yourself for all this time? And a lot of it was just acceptance for it being there, and therefore it stops you from like working from it. So for instance, a lot of my childhood and even now, I come across so many experiences where I realize that I listen more than other people do. I'm constantly like in conversations with people where I'm shut off, I'm ignored. When I start to speak, it's when people want to go, or like they're aware of what time it is. My whole childhood I was dead shy, so like that was my own kind of like introduction to it, to be fair, because I never thought I was worthy to have like my own little section to speak as well in the conversation. I rarely entered a room with loads of energy to bring it. I was ready for the room to bring me energy, and I was kind of like internally starving to be heard. And I would just like make radio shows on my own, make dance routines for a fake audience. I would pretend to be a teacher, and I would pretend to have a class in front of me. And I never really realised until approaching my 30s why that was. I never thought about it, and so many puzzle pieces were making sense. It's funny how therapy and psychology will do that for you. You realise like, oh my God, I had a severe burning yearning to be heard. Next thing you know, how else does that manifest? I make a YouTube channel. I talk my freaking socks off. I want the world to hear me. I make that happen because there is nothing more powerful. There's a wound there. This is why wars happen, because the people in charge of them are capable of these crazy, crazy things because of a wound, because of a burning yearning. And, I had to learn over months, like these 2 years, how I can start, building on my worth, like day by day making actions that prove to my body I am worthy. And that can just be as simple as like calling someone out for not being fair, or saying like, where's my piece? What about my turn? Asking for more money for work that I've done. That's a way of proving my body worthiness, because I would always downplay how much I charge. That was another part of it. If anything, a lot of it is around like the idea of scarcity. So me not being enough, and also me not having enough. So I think a lot of us in some way, shape or form are compensating for something that we feel like we're lacking in our lives. So I just felt like I had to, if I really wanted to transform how I felt about my content, what kind of stuff I'm creating, my crazy like negative relationship I was starting to form with views and attention and how much I was receiving online, I really had to work on finding that within. I really had to work on why that was pissing me off. This is the funny thing, when you accept those parts of yourself and you work on them and you start building a relationship on that side of you that you actually want to operate from, which is a place of abundance, of not feeling like I need to rely on numbers online or the internet to be a good person, a better person. You can actually say these things out loud. Now I can actually honestly say to you, it was embarrassing. Like, people would talk about my YouTube channel and be like, oh my God, I can't believe you're still doing that. And like, the only thing I could say in my head was, yeah, but I'm nowhere near as successful as I used to be. Like, no one really watches me anymore. Like, these things would haunt me. I could just never own it. When someone else going through the same thing, like I would meet an old friend who is also still doing YouTube, and they would easily say like, yeah, but like I don't really make the same anymore. Like money wise, it doesn't support me anymore, blah, blah, blah. And I'll be like, wow, you can like just easily say that. Like, why do I have such a hard time? Because there's something in me that doesn't feel enough, I'm putting more importance on something external, basically. And that was making me very, very insecure. So finding abundance within yourself is basically what I think, in short, the last 2 years has been all about for me. And I felt like when I was talking about my spiritual awakening in that other video, I thought that's what was going to be the start of it. But actually, I think that's when you're in the thick of it, when you realize, oh my holy crap, guys, we are little sponges. We're operating from our parents. We're not cutting these generational cords. Like, Jesus, let's wake up, guys. That's when you're like more just wanting to save the world. And you're like, oh my God, come on this journey with me, guys. But no, actually, I still had to like work on that, and I still do. This is, by the way, this is not by all means not me saying gather round, children. Now I am the wise one. Now, like, I know there's stuff to work on. That doesn't mean I've finished working on it. It means I'm aware when new stuff comes in, so I can actually stop between like doing nothing and starting an action to figure out if I'm just doing it through like trauma or a wound or like fear or something sticky. Am I feel like attachment, or am I doing it with intention? Like, is this action supporting my desired life, what I'm trying to manifest? Which is why I also like have really, in the past 2 years, my development with spirituality, manifestation and witchcraft, that has skyrocketed to a place I didn't even know existed. And before 2 years ago, I would have sort of called myself a witch, I suppose, but I didn't really understand the stuff I know now. The whole like so within, so without, so above, so below. I had heard of terms like that, but I truly didn't actually know, like, what does that mean? What does it mean everyone's a mirror? What does it mean that like the universe is inside me, and if I want the universe to work in the way I want it out there, I've got to do it within? Didn't understand those things, but when you do, you have a better knowing about like, right, what inside me do I need to change to make my reality differently? Instead of seeing like low numbers as like a scale of like how important or cool or interesting I am, the same numbers can exist, but technically my reality is changing because I've changed how I feel about myself. That's the kind of like the simple bottom line of it. So I know a lot of people talk about abundance when it comes to money, because I think first thing people want to manifest is like a rich life, right? They're like, oh my God, magic's real? Okay then, give me $1,000. And so like we figure out what scarcity mindset is and how what abundance is and how it's in different forms. It's not just money, and you've got to find that within yourself. And it's like, what? But actually I felt like my connection to that came like through stronger when there wasn't elements associated to money, because it's just like finding that in the day-to-day life of like where it still exists regardless of the number form. Ultimately, like what I'm saying here is I really needed an overhaul of my life, to be honest. I needed 2 years that wasn't focused around creating content, because a lot of my experiences were tainted in a way because I wanted to make them into like content. And I even my home, like I was in this weird space where like I wanted my home to look magical and like clean and like pristine and a good representation of me, so that I could film it and show it to the world. But then I was never like available and free to actually like clean it and make it and organize it into the space that I wanted it to look like. So like I was in this like spiral, but that was because I just wanted it to look like that for other people. I wanted acceptance. I wanted approval from something externally. Again, I had to find that within. How can I accept my home first? Like, how can I make that right for me? And I had to do that offline. I had to work on these things off the internet. And this could be advice for anyone who's trying to do the same thing. If you're trying to work on yourself spiritually, think about how much easier you're probably going to find that in your own company, for a little bit at least, relying a little bit less on other people, just being quiet enough to actually like hear your voice, your knowing, your gut, your intuition. Especially on the internet, there's so many opinions, and you are a lot more conscious of like how you look and how you're appearing in an ego way when you're filming yourself, or even like writing stuff out. However you like express your opinions on the internet, it makes it very hard to just focus on your own like history and upbringing and like any forms of attachments that you might have. Again, the whole like needing something external to like actually like hear me and seeking for that like everywhere else outside of myself was a big piece for me. But again, it's that scarcity mindset of, even in those spaces where I felt like I found it, I felt like people were hearing me and listening to me, I was still acting in a way that my life experience has taught me I should be acting. I was talking really, really fast, getting the points across really, really fast, because I felt like I was going to lose people's attention if I didn't talk fast on camera. Or I'd chop out loads of boring silences because I didn't feel enough. I felt like I was scarce of like attention from people if I wasn't like boom, boom, boom. And yes, that like supported the way the internet runs now, because attention spans are getting smaller and smaller. Like even like 10 years ago, I remember my old channel manager was like, it's really good how much you cut out and it's very like punchy, it's great. Yes, it did support that way of growing, but it was just reinforcing that part of my brain that's like, if you don't get people's attention in this room quickly, you're gonna be forgotten about. It wasn't helping my worthiness grow. It was making me feel, to get what I wanted, to get these people's attentions, I had to basically consistently prove myself. I'm done with proving myself. I am just done with it. I don't even know what else to tell you. Now don't get me wrong, I'm always going to prove to myself the person that I didn't know I was actually capable of becoming. I'm not done proving how much I am capable of and the life I do want to lead and where I'm going, where I'm headed. Because at this point, I feel like I'm very much in the driving seat, way more than I used to feel. And there's always going to be blips along the way, by the way. I'm not always in this place. It comes and it goes. But now I know how to get back on track, and I think that's a really powerful place to be in. Some of that involves doing that on here, of course. There's so much I want to create, but from a place of health in a way that doesn't have a like tight grip, a white knuckle grip to it. There's so much I want to do for my tarot business. My biggest manifestation in the last 2 years has been my video editing business. Like, that has carried me through, and it's gonna make me emotional if I think about it too much, but it carried me. Like, I would have not been able to do the inner work that I have been doing. I was able to do it in my own home and in my own company, and you can still obviously find yourself and be a witchy person out in the muggle world, in the community. But I think for me, video editing as well is like a dream, is my childhood dream. So I was like connecting to my child self and understanding what she needed and what stuff she'd been through, while doing a job that like lit her up and she felt like I'd never actually be able to do. And I've also been able to like learn so much more about it, and like my skill sets in it have like doubled, tripled. I've basically made more money than I ever have before in my life through it. Money's been a massive thing for me, like a massive trauma thing for me that I've probably had to work through a lot more intensely than any other thing, to be fair, and I've barely touched the surface of that. But my God, it's just constantly felt like I'm mining all the time, going into your deep dark shadows, which is the part of yourself that doesn't come to light a lot of time. The part of you that's often wounds and trauma. That's why it's in the dark. Not a lot of people are willing to go there, but doing it because, hey, that's where gold's found. In the mines, in the dark, going within, underground. It's in the belly. That's where miracles are born. In the womb, in the belly, in the dark, under the surface. And I feel like it's just been 2 years of me like chipping away with my little pickaxe, finding something and being like, how do I work with this? How do I work with this? Technically something that not a lot of people would want to touch because it's a form of demon. It's something that like rules my life and it could potentially continue to. So it's scary, but how can I, in a way, like exercise it, to get it out, to transform it, to alchemize it into something powerful? So like meeting it, greeting it, loving it, learning to love it, and releasing it and like unplugging it and watching it melt away and doing that over and over again consistently with like loads of different things, loads of different layers. At the moment, you can probably tell, like I didn't even intend to make this video today actually, if I'm honest, but I knew that I haven't been well for like a whole month. I've been ill with 3 different things. That was also a pattern I noticed throughout the 2 years. Every time I stopped working and took some time off, or I was on holiday, I got ill. It was like my body saying like, bloody hell. I've been finding so many like meanings and like synchronicities in my life with the universe, like how it's working around me. How can I find meaning in coincidences and instances, weather or conversations or ideas that I've had, or like, oh my goodness, this miracles happen, or oh my goodness, this terrible things happen. How can I like lean into it and find meaning and messages? But this last illness has just been this like awful like plug. It's felt like my face is just congested. It's felt like all these illnesses I've had is like I'm finally releasing and melting away these gross infections, these like parts of me that don't need to be there anymore. It feels like a bit of a cleanse is essentially what I'm saying. We've met with our shadows, right? We've met in the darkness so that we can release it and enter in spring. But what makes it even funnier is one of the first things that happened when we entered the new year, that was like in the thick of me being ill. We had this huge sewage pipe block in the flat. Our kitchen started stinking. The pipes, or when we were using the washing machine, you could just hear like glug, 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 like things were bunged up, and that is what this whole month has felt and meant to me. And that's the important thing. It's about what it means to you. This is a bit of a side note here, but that's why I really struggle with books that tell you what to exactly do for each spell, or like crystal books that like tell you will only get this form of essence from this crystal in your pocket. Like, no, the whole part of your spirituality is what it means to your spirit. I just think more people should think about that. Anyway, we had to get a specialist in, a specialist unclogger to come in, and I literally mean unclog the literal, and I mean literal shit from our drain. He lifted up that manhole, whatever you want to call it, and oh boy, if we want to talk about cleansing, and unclogging all of our messy human way of living this spiritual experience. Jesus, there was evidence of it down there. And I've never seen anything like it. And it just made me laugh because as they were unclogging it and it was all getting released and back into the lovely clean ocean that we pollute with our shite every day, I was thinking to myself, wow, this is very, very symbolic. It feels very, very true to how things feel to me right now. It's not been the first time and it won't be the last time, but I'm excited about that because every time there is a new one, it feels better than the last. It feels more expansive and exciting and more magic happens. And even with the home right now, like, because of detaching myself to this personality, this identity that I associated to being online and like who I am on the internet and how that comes across, and it's really helped me lean into areas that I neglected for a while because of the fact I was so busy living this like persona. And don't get me wrong, like if you've watched me growing up and you loved who I was then, there's still elements of that in me now, obviously. Like, it's who I was as a kid, as a teenager, like all of that was truthful. It was just from a place of experiences that like I wanted to move out from. And I think that's what adulthood is, isn't it? You become wise, you embody that wisdom, and you become a new person. And so who I was then, a lot of people probably resonated with because they were also living in that experience as well and going through all of those things too. And it was nice to see that on film. But I just think if you want to stick around and you want to see the future content I've got on here, you might be greeted with something a little bit different. But that's who I am to this day, and this channel's always been about what currently interests me, no matter how I document that. But it all comes from a place of good intention. I mean, it always has done, to be fair. I just needed to work on myself a little bit. Thank you for your patience. If you've been wondering what the heck's going on, with intentional living, you do become a little bit more private. I don't necessarily feel like I need my points validated or I need to be heard as much as I used to. I am going to, however, be posting more like video diary entry things such as this kind of content over on my Patreon. I want to put some sort of paywall behind it because I want to do it and offer it to people who are actually like more so interested about the content and to speak my truth. And if it involves doing that in a place where it feels more container-like, then so be it. I'm going to make it really cheap, by the way. It's going to be like £3 or something. Things that I've learned and my journey and like philosophical things and psychology things and witchy things. Like, then every now and again I'll host like a fun event as well where we can do something together as a group. We can do a ritual together, or it can be like a ceremonial thing. I don't really feel the sporadic content is where my mindset is right now. Even in my home, like I've made the place so much better for me. It reflects me so much more. It's clearer, it's more cleansed. Like, I've learned so much about how we can let flow into our lives through the way we decorate and organize our like physical stuff around us, like our home. Mentally we feel like clogged up, or financially we feel like there's not enough flow. It affects us. Even things like not keeping your front door freaking clean. The ultimate symbol of welcoming someone in, of entering an energy into your home, and you're expecting that to be in your spiritual world. As above, so below, as within, so without. I'm going to welcome myself back. Welcome back, Ellie. And welcome back to you, because if you've been around for a while, you'll know that it's been a bit weird on this channel. My Vlogmas was very weird. Did anyone watch that? Because that was one of my favourite Vlogmases ever to exist. But I know not everyone was around for that. Little Ellie wouldn't have done that 3 years ago because she would have feared what it meant people were going to think and if they were going to even watch it. But that was one of the most therapeutic, fun projects I've done in a long freaking time. And who was it for? It was for me. Exactly what it was for in the first place on this channel. So thanks for watching. Loads of love. I'm on social medias if you want to catch me on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. And if you want to book a tarot reading with me and get your fortune read, woo, see how your year's gonna go, I'm on Mindfully Mystic on Instagram, or Tarot with Ellie on Facebook, or you can email me to book a reading, whatever you fancy. Subscribe to this channel to be notified every time I make a brand new video like this one, and I actually will see you soon. Bye guys.